Today I'm going to talk about ratios. Ratios compare two numbers to each other. In this example, I'm going to compare squares to circles. In this example, there are 3 squares and 2 circles. I can compare the squares to circles by saying 3 to 2. I can also write it like a fraction, 3 to 2, or I can literally write it as 3 out of 2. You must always show your ratio in the order that it's either written or you're describing it. As a ratio, I can compare the circles to squares by saying 2 out of 3, or 2 out of 3, or literally writing 2 out of 3. I can also compare other things. I can compare circles to triangles. Circles to triangles, well, there's 2 out of 0. Or I can compare how many squares are there to all the shapes. There are 3 out of 5. You probably noticed that some of the ratios look like fractions. You can actually simplify them just like a fraction. If I say times 2 and times 2, I can get 60 over 80, or 60 out of 80. But it would make more sense that I want my numbers smaller because they're easier to compare. So if I do 30 out of 40, I probably want to divide by 10 and get 3 out of 4. And that makes more sense than saying 60 out of 80. With ratios, you can also simplify them if you want to keep the proportions the same. For example, if I can run 24 feet in 16 seconds, I really want to know how much I can run in 1 second. So how can I find that out? I'm going to go ahead and divide this by 16, the numerator and denominator. It's going to be sort of an odd thing, but if I do 16 divided by 16 and 24 divided by 16, I'm going to get 1 in the denominator, and that's what I want because I want to know how many feet I can run in 1 second. And in this case, if I do 24 divided by 16, it's going to go in 1 time. Subtract 16. That's going to give me 8. 16 won't go into 8, so if I put my decimal there and bring down a 0, 16 goes into 80 5 times. So even though I can't write a fraction with a decimal in it, because I'm comparing rates, I can go 15 feet in 1 second. I'm comparing different units. Here I want to know if 18 bracelets can be made by 3 girls, how many bracelets can be made by 1 girl. Again, if I want to know a fraction that's going to end with a 1 in the denominator is going to give me a whole number, and I'll know how many bracelets for 1 girl. What will I have to divide these 2 numbers by? I'm going to have to divide the denominator by 3 so that I can get 1, which means I'll have to divide the numerator by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6, so in this case, I can get 6 bracelets from 1 girl. That is the rate that 1 girl can make is 6 bracelets. Because this is written as a fraction, I can find the rate for ratios that don't simplify easy. Here I know that 5 girls can score 17 goals, but if I divide this by 5 to get my 1 in the denominator, again, I'm going to have an odd number. 17 doesn't divide by 5 easily, but let's figure out what that will be. 5 goes into 17 3 times. That's 15. Subtract, that's 2. 5 does not go into 2, so I know that I can put a decimal and a 0, bring my decimal up, and I can bring my 0 down. 5 does go into 24 times. That means that each girl will score 3.4 goals. Now you know you can't score a .4 goal, but I can figure out how many goals is scored per girl this way. I'd like you to try. On your scrap paper, can you find out if someone can lay 42 bricks in 2 hours, how many would they lay in 1 hour? Try it yourself by pushing pause and then come back to it when you're done. How did you do? Did you get 42 bricks over 2 hours? The first thing I need to do is get a 1 in the denominator, which means I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. That's going to give me my 1. And 42 bricks divided by 2 is going to give me 24 bricks. So how many bricks can a person lay in 1 hour? 24 bricks. Let's try another one. If I have 24 trees and they can be cut in 5 days, how many trees can be cut in just 1 day? Again, go ahead and push pause, solve it yourself, and come back and see how you did. This one's another bit of a stinker. If I have 24 trees and it takes 5 days to cut them all, I want to divide by 5, both of them, to get a 1 in the denominator. And let's see, 24 divided by 5, we know it goes in 4 times, will give us 20. That's a 4. I need a 0, so I'm going to bring down my 0 after I put my decimal up there. 5 goes into 48 times. That means the rate is 4 8/10ths of a tree in 1 day. How did you do? Once I know how to solve for a ratio, I can compare two people to see how fast they are compared to each other. For example, if I have Dan, and he can paint 9 planks in a fence in 6 minutes, and Meredith can paint 22 planks in 11 minutes, who can paint faster? Go ahead and hit pause and solve both of these and see who paints faster. Let's see how they did. Dan, we're going to divide by 6 to get 1 in the denominator. And 9 divided by 6 is a bit of a stinker, but let's do it. 9 divided by 6, it's going to go in 1 time. Subtract, I get 3. 6 does not go into 3, so I'm going to need a 0, and I need a decimal up here if I put a decimal there. Then I'm going to bring down that 0 and get 30. 6 goes into 30 5 times. Dan can paint 1.5 planks in 1 minute. What about Meredith? I'm going to divide her by 11 and divide the planks by 11, which will give me 1 in the denominator and 2, because 22 divided by 11 is 2, in the numerator. So who painted planks faster? Meredith. Let's have you try 2 again. If I can travel 330 miles on 15 gallons of gas, and my mother can travel 240 miles on 10 gallons of gas, who can travel farther? Go ahead, hit pause, solve both of these, and figure out whether I can travel farther, or my mom can. How'd you do? We're going to have to divide this by 15 and this by 15. It's going to give me 1 in the denominator. But what about the numerator? Let's check it out. 330 divided by 15. 15 goes into 3 no times. It goes into 33 2 times, which is 30. Bring down the 3. bring down the 0. 15 goes into 30 2 times. So her rate, my rate, is 22 miles per gallon. Let's check on Mom's. Here we're going to divide by 10 to get 1 in the denominator, which is the gallons, and 240 divided by 10 is 24. So who gets better mileage, or who can go farther on a gallon of gas? My mom. Last one that you have to do by yourself with me. Let's check and see how much rain they got in 2 different months. One month there was 6 inches of rain in 4 hours, and the other month there was 8 inches of rain in 5 hours. Let's call this one January. This one we'll call January, and this one we'll call February. So, who got more rain, January or February, in the same amount of time? And what would that time be? Go ahead and solve it by pushing pause and come back and see how you did. Okay, how did you do? First of all, I need to know that there's going to be 6 inches in 4 hours. So I'm going to divide this by 4 and divide this by 4 to get a 1 in the denominator for the hours. So that means I need to do 6 divided by 4. That's going to go in 1 time. With the subtracting and get it 2. It's not going to work, so I need to bring up a decimal. So I can put a 0 there, bring down my 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So it rained 1.5 inches in 1 hour in January. What about February? Here I have 8 inches in 5 hours. So I'm going to divide by 5 because I want a 1 in the denominator for hours. And here I'll divide by 5. That's going to be 8 divided by 5. It goes in 1 time. Subtract 5 gives me 3. I need more numbers, so I'm going to make a 0 with my decimal, bring up my decimal, bring down my 0. 8 goes into 30 6 times. So in February, it rained 1 6/10 inches, and January 1 5/10 inches. So January, it rained more. Who noticed that when I solved this problem, I said that 8 goes into 30 6 times? I'm sorry, I meant 5 goes into 30 6 times. All right, this one you're going to solve on your own. You're going to tell me which is a faster typist, 1,000 words in 20 minutes or 2,475 words in 45 minutes. Then you'll tell me how many bungee cords for $10 or 20 bungee cords for $22, and which is a better buy. Same with water, 5 ounces of water for $6 or 14 ounces of water for $19, which is a better buy. And finally, if I want to buy gas, 20 gallons of gas for $66 or 25 gallons of gas for $82.25. Please show your work on your page turned sideways for both of the problems in each quadrant, and then turn that in. I can't wait to see you tomorrow.